Do you remember in 2020 when there was that strange docuseries that caught the world by storm? It had to do with a crazy backwoods hillbilly who loved giant cats. Well, Netflix is looking to recreate a bit of that same fervor with another deranged docuseries that has to do with a crazy backwoods hillbilly, who's also a wild conspiracy theorist, Elvis impersonator. That's a mouthful and a whole lot to take in. Well, the Kings of Tupelo, a Southern Crime Saga, is a strange look into some colorful characters in Tupelo, Mississippi. A small-town feud, an internet conspiracy, an Elvis impersonator, black market body parts, and an assassination attempt on the president. Welcome to Mississippi, where this jaw-dropping story spirals from local drama to a national scandal. Buckle up for a wild ride. This isn't fiction, it's Tupelo. Alright, just to get this out of the way up front, the docuseries is 3 episodes, with the last 2 being over an hour each. Now, the show is dragged out longer than it needs to be, with repetitive information just given to us. This certainly could have been shored up to be more concise and streamlined. I'm also not too sure of the point of what's being presented, other than it's a bizarre story with so many rabbit holes and kooky characters. So while this may not be enlightening from a knowledge or learning perspective, it's an entertaining trip that, if anything, can make you feel sane about whatever craziness is going on in your life. Because these people, they're nuts. We follow a dude named Kevin Curtis, who at one point was suspected of sending ricin to a Mississippi state senator and then President Obama. But that's really a very minor arc within the entirety of the docuseries. What really kicks this off is the mixture of an overpopulation of Elvis impersonators in the town of Tupelo and Kevin's extremely deep dive into a conspiracy having to do with stolen body parts and the massive cabal who's apparently behind it. Now, the docuseries has a ton of in-depth interviews with Curtis, then his ex-wife, his brother, law enforcement, government officials, and even another unhinged dude with whom Curtis had an unbelievable feud. Now, I liken this storytelling a lot to Tiger King because Curtis is the one narrating much of his own story. He's retelling us his account as if he's writing a screenplay, which he coincidentally is. So everything we get from him, it's overdramatic and most likely highly embellished. The production then adds to that zaniness by affecting his voice with reverb, pitch changes, and all other sorts of just audio effects that are meant to enhance the drama. And it accomplishes that, but it also adds a ton of ridiculousness as well. Now, these theatrics, they keep the presentation from becoming stale or even run-of-the-mill. But because of the forced quirkiness, it also gets tiring pretty quickly. And it makes it difficult to ever discern what is factual and what is fantasy, especially when Curtis is the one recounting these events. Now, just about every person that's interviewed in this is some sort of caricature of a real person. It's like they took real people, and then the filmmakers asked them to turn it up to 11 in terms of oddities or flamboyance, to which they all dove in head first and fully embraced. The ex-wife, she looks to be drunk through pretty much the entire interview. And as the story goes along, it's difficult to not see her as a serial cheater by her own remarks. I mean, the woman flirted and maybe even slept with almost everyone she came in contact with. And then, because this takes place in the town of Tupelo, the birthplace of Elvis, the town is chock full of impersonators, or as some call themselves, tribute artists. Sounds better, right? Well, it's hilarious to see all the aging men who have jet black dyed hair, making it look like they have just terrible toupees on, rather than anything that's close to natural. Now, the mystique and aura of Elvis, it's also threaded throughout the entire documentary. Some of it makes sense because both Curtis and his brother are impersonators, and they become relatively huge for that type of performance. But I could have done without a lot of the Elvis history. It's scattered throughout the show, and it doesn't add anything to the wonkiness or the entertainment of Curtis's story. I mean, we get it. He was born there. It's the town's claim to fame, and they're quite proud of that. Cool. I mean, see, I said that in one sentence. Over, done with, you know? Documentary, though, it devotes minutes and minutes and minutes to this. And it's not that fascinating, unless you count the elderly women recounting how they all wanted to sleep with the king. I'm not interested in that fact at all. One thing that helps to make this series engaging and intriguing is the massive conspiracy threads that Curtis pulls at. He starts with the selling of body parts, which then leads him to involvement with funeral homes, which then connects to a state representative who won't sponsor the bill that Curtis once instituted. And this then wraps into the future DA of Tupelo, a connected judge, a U.S. senator, and eventually President Obama. And while I knew that the poison ricin had been sent to Obama, I didn't know the story surrounding it. The interviews with FBI and Secret Service agents are both informative and hilarious as they work the case that points directly at Curtis. And for as unbelievable as All We Watch can be, the story continues to get even weirder and more convoluted. And we're introduced to a martial arts instructor, and the biggest thing that annoyed me in the docuseries is that at the end of episode 2, they talk about this instructor who was also a Wayne Newton impersonator, and then it's never revisited. I mean, do you know how rude that is to tease something as wild as that? You have dueling impersonators, both of whom eventually had ongoing shows in Vegas. Not the impersonators, but the actual real entertainers. But I was disappointed that the show brings this up and then it moves on without dealing with that really just a strange reveal. And while that is a bizarre addition to the story, it does go even weirder, funneling deeper into conspiracies and mind-bending theories. Now, I'm not sure anyone we watch in this is cheerworthy, but for as off-putting as I found Curtis to be, and especially with just the huge amount of hubris that he displays, he was entertaining and a tiny bit endearing. He's a wonderful showman, and he understands how to play to the camera, but it also makes him lose a ton of credibility in his claims, reducing their believability and validity. Well, that's a lot of words with itty, right? Well, if you're sitting down to watch this to get insight and information on the ricin packages that were mailed to elected officials, you're going to be disappointed because that area, it's rather thin and sparse. But if you are looking to be taken on a spiraling ride of madness and possible psychosis, the Kings of Tupelo will fill that plate even more than Fat Elvis at a Vegas smorgasbord. I mean, the storytelling, it is a bit choppy and it focuses more on personality clashes and ego trips rather than fact-based claims. And then it includes irrelevant information that adds time but not worthy content. But this is still a jaw-droppingly shocking and amusing story that's filled with a cast of characters you'd swear were completely fabricated. And while it's not the most grounded of a docuseries, it is an outlandish presentation that should add some cheer to your end of your watching. There's no sex, maybe some very brief nudity, a lot of profanity, not really any violence. Now, as a reminder, I don't give couch ratings to documentaries, but despite the lack of credibility from the central figure, The Kings of Tupelo, a Southern Crime Saga, is kooky and entertaining, and I recommend giving it a watch. So if you watched any outrageous documentaries that were fun but strange, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.